George Washington set the standard. He kind of set the example and showed, you don't need to be in this office more than 2 terms. And he set a great precedent that was followed by every other president right up till FDR. And because FDR was such a nightmare in 1951, they got the constitutional amendment through. The 22nd Amendment came out. Why? Because FDR had seized so much power that even Democrats were against anybody doing that ever again.
Method would the president use to potentially run for a 3rd term? As he said, there are methods there.
Look, pause it. Is she literally in the street? It looks like they're actually in the middle of the street.
That area of the sticks. And if you see in the back, that's where all the reporters and the news stations are to do the Fox News hits, CNN hits.
That's like the back lot at the White House.
Yes.
Okay.
Back 40, Jeffy will call that.
All right, let's see what she has to say about this.
Question about a 3rd term, and then he answers honestly and candidly with a smile, and then everybody here melts down about his answer. The president was talked about this last night on the plane. He said, it's not really something we're thinking about. He has 4 years. There's a lot of work to do. We've done a lot in these nearly first 100 days, and the American people love what this president is doing, particularly when it comes to efforts to secure the border.
Okay. Later in the day, the president was asked about it as well.
Story. I know it's hypothetical right now, but if you were allowed for some reason to run for a 3rd term, is there a thought that the Democrats could try to run Barack Obama against you?
I'd love that.
For his 3rd term?
Boy, I'd love that. That would be a good one. I'd like that. No, people are asking me to run, and there's a whole story about running for a 3rd term. I don't know. I never looked into it. They do say there's a way you can do it, but I don't know about that. But I have not looked into it. I want to do a fantastic job. We have 4 years, just about, almost close to 4 years. Time is flying, but it's still close to 4 years. And we're getting a lot of credit for having done a great job in the first almost 100 days. Mm-hmm. And we have some big things we're going to be announcing over the next 2 days that you know very well, Peter. And I think it's going to be something that's going to bring a lot of wealth back to our country, tremendous wealth back to our country, actually. And
okay. So there it is. He hasn't thought about it. He doesn't know the rules on it. But I don't know who's advising him on this. Whoever it is, they're doing him and the country a real disservice. His opponents already believe he wants to be a dictator. So now, if he's seriously entertaining a 3rd term, what does that look like? I don't know what these other methods are that he's talking about, because you cannot become vice president and have the president resign and then ascend to the presidency if you've already done 2 terms. It can't happen. It's prohibited by the 12th Amendment. You talk about the 22nd Amendment, whose last line precludes a 3rd term. But it also precludes a vice president from ascending to the presidency if that person has already served as president twice. So I don't know what it is they're talking about, that they could make this happen. But there is an article in the Daily Mail that claims it is possible. In fact, they say it's easy. And they're talking about it hinging on the interpretation of one word, and that's election in the 22nd Amendment, and the loyalty of one man, the vice president, or J.D. Vance. So the text of the full 22nd Amendment says the following, according to the Daily Mail: no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice, and no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which other person was elected president shall be elected to the office of the president more than once. Okay, so they say the loophole there is the word elected. It's laid out in a 1999 Minnesota Law Review article co-authored by Professor Bruce Peabody entitled "The Twice and Future President."
Uh-oh.
It outlines the amendment has been subject to widespread misunderstanding and concludes that the idea any twice elected president is constitutionally prohibited from serving again is decidedly incorrect. Huh. Interesting. I mean, there's going to be a lot of disagreement on that issue, I'm sure, because, George Washington set the standard. He kind of set the example and showed, you don't need to be in this office more than 2 terms. And he set a great precedent that was followed by every other president right up till FDR. And because FDR was such a nightmare in 1951, they got the constitutional amendment through. The 22nd Amendment came out. Why? Because FDR had seized so much power that even Democrats were against anybody doing that ever again. So, I don't know. I think you'd have a real problem if you try to run on a technicality like that. Interesting. Very, very interesting. But also a problem. Here he is on a roll, and he's doing really well. And I support almost all of what he's done. So why taint it with this talk and just play into the Democrat hysteria that he's trying to become a dictator? Why?
And do you think he's being serious?
I do think he is serious. The New York Times wrote an article that it might be strategy on his part because he doesn't want to be perceived as a lame duck president.
Interesting.
And so this helps him maintain more strength in the presidency. I mean, maybe. Also, John Thune said he might just be messing with reporters. I mean, that is possible, but it sure doesn't seem that way to me. Either way, I don't think it's helpful. I mean, seriously, he's done a great job. Don't give the Democrats any more ammunition. It's just unnecessary. So, really, to me, the only way to make this happen is a constitutional amendment. So, you'd need 2/3 in the House and the Senate, which is not going to happen. How likely is that? Then, after you get 2/3 of the House and the Senate, you also need 3/4 of the states to ratify it. That's 38 states. How likely is that?